Welcome to CarboPro Talk Radio. I'm Nicodemus Holland, and I'm graced by the presence here of Neil Van Der Byl and his lovely wife, Gracie Van Der Byl. And Gracie, you just had a phenomenal performance at the Rottnest Channel Swim. Can you tell us a bit more about the race and what went on at that race?
The Rottnest Channel Swim has been going on for about 25 years. This was the 25th anniversary. It's the biggest swim in the Southern Hemisphere, and I was really excited to take part in it. Australia traditionally has been the dueling nation with the United States for the strongest swimming country in the world, and I was really excited to take part in the biggest event in their entire country.
That's awesome. And so can you tell us a bit about what was the So 25th year, how many swimmers, what's kind of the field like? And can you tell us a bit about like the field at an event like the Rottnest race versus something you'd find in the US?
Yeah, that's what's so exciting about this event, is because we've got nothing like it in the United States that compares to it. There were around 4,000 people taking part in this event. 360 plus were solo entries, and then the rest were relays and duos, which is something that we just don't have that depth in a marathon swim. Maybe we do, but we definitely don't have an event that brings that depth in a marathon swim in the United States.
So when you won the Manhattan Island Marathon Swim race, that was last June,
right?
On your birthday, which is awesome. What was the field like there, like in comparison to a race like Rottnest?
Manhattan Island Swim is a really select race. You have to qualify for it, and the qualification process is really difficult. The coolest part about it is kind of the sort of unofficial, official, Northern Hemisphere Championships, which it is. And so I was in the fastest heat of the swim, and there's people from all over the world that compete, and they handpick the race so that it does give a really varied field. Okay. Tons of people apply, only few people get picked. Where this event was slightly different in the sense that the majority of the field, I would say over 95% plus, was all Australia, all hometown Australia. Okay. And I don't know if there's a 95% that would have been able to swim around Manhattan. Okay. That would be all American. Yeah, that would be all American. Yeah, so that was really an exciting thing to be a part of. So you're kind of going to the bastion of swimming in the world. It was, so that's really neat. It is. It was a privilege. It was just an absolute privilege to be with a depth in a community like that. Yeah. It was awesome. And there was we'll jump ahead real quick to it, but you were telling me just a difference, kind of how that long distance swimming is really it's this big thing. It's a sport which when I did Tour of Giants in Italy last year, was one of my favorite things about the race, is in that little northern valley of Italy, ultra running is this big recognized thing, whereas in America in very many spots, nobody has any idea what it is. So tell us a bit about, the community and how enthralled and involved they are. That was the most incredible piece of it. Like, I gotta say, that was my favorite piece of it, is that, there were 80 people that qualified to be in the elite heat of a solo. I mean, 80 people in an elite heat. That first of all, by itself is already a huge, that's already a huge thing by itself. And then the fact that when I finished, there's like,
as well, the pool, right. The whole community gets involved in Australia, and it's not 5 years of legal battles to build a 50-meter pool. They have 3 50-meter pools, and everybody gets
within like a 10-mile radius. And then at the finish of the swim, there's like 2,000 people standing there as spectators to watch us finish the swim. That's a lot of them didn't even have swimmers in the swim. They just came out for the day because of the event. And even finishing Mims, as epic as Mims was, I don't think that there were 50 people watching the finish. And everybody there had somebody in the swim. They were like family or friends. It wasn't like the community came out to watch that event. And so, epic, to be a part of that, I mean, I could hear the crowd. For about 150 meters in, the crowd was so loud. I could hear the crowd underwater, just booming, screaming, top voice. And that was, I mean, short of NC2As, there's nothing like that. And I'm getting chills right now just thinking about you and then how close that was in the finish, which we'll get to in a second. But with a field like that, so with a field like 80 deep, can you tell us a bit about what the pre-race kind of what it was like? I mean, I can only imagine the depth of fields that I've gone into, maybe 15, 20 people deep or something like that at max at some of these ultras that I've gone to.
where I've mainly just been focused on one competitor, and I get anxiety thinking about something in the past from that. But with a field of 80 people, I can only imagine what the pressure must have been like before the race.
Yeah, there was quite a bit of pressure, and being from out of town, it kind of created a lot more pressure. In the guys' side, they had the winner from New Zealand. He had been there the week before. He races professionally, FINA races for New Zealand. Then there was a really stacked group of Australians and other New Zealand, really, really strong guys who also compete in FINA races and stuff. So they're all professionals. And then in the women's, Jamie, the local Perth girl I raced, she's a professional, and she's won that race, and she's to say the least, super loved by her community, and she wins a ton. And Sigrid, the girl who got third, yeah, she's also really respected. And then my other friend in the field, Liz Schlicker, she's my training partner from America. She's won the clean half in Hong Kong. She's won the Channel Swim. So she's no joke of a competitor either.
So going into something like that, do you research your competitors at all before, or like in that week before, are you just trying to just zone out? This is your race. Just focus on.
I start months and months before. I start from the minute that I'm kind of inspired by doing this event, and I start months ahead, kind of going, okay, so let me look back historically and see what it takes to win, what it takes from the first male or female. I'll start with the first male and then the female.
And you start analyzing those.
Yeah, and then I see what the splits and what it takes. What are those guys holding in, and can I be competitive in that field? Well, I've already signed up, so I decided I'm going to be competitive in the field, whatever it is. I'm just going to do it. And then so I spend the next few months like working to make sure that my base and my threshold is in that range to be competitive.
And this kind of really segues into the next question that I wanted to ask, which was your training for this. So 21-mile race. This one is not, am I getting that right? 21 miles?
This one's
21K, 21 kilometers. Okay.
Catalina was 21 miles.
Okay, so Catalina is 21 miles. So that being said, this is a much shorter race than your typical cup of tea for you. So what was then different about your training, your approach to this race than something like Catalina or MIMS that I would call your specialty?
Right, so this was way outside my comfort zone. Typically I like to do swims that are 40 Ks and longer. So anything that's kind of over that 6-hour virtual mark and longer is kind of in the area that I like to specialize in. And typically before my swims, I'm super OCD, and I'm really, really controlling about my swims and really deliberate about not going out of town and staying home and making sure that I have everything that makes me comfortable so that I can get the most miles in. And I have a fairly rigid way of doing it. Where this year, I had the privilege to be involved in other events, and those events work different energy systems. So I was in Tahiti for a week for Iron Mana. And it's a waterman event, so I was doing tons of running and paddling and hiking and all sorts of stuff where I was really, really pushing my threshold and my VO2 in ways that I hadn't done it before. And the water was really, really warm, and getting thrown into swims against a current for hours at a time that at the time I didn't see the benefit of that. I mean, it definitely at the time made me a better athlete, but the benefit of that being, way later, in hindsight being 2020, and then leaving that and going to South Africa for 2 weeks, and then just swimming long, easy, clean miles in the river, just not worried about racing in time and speed, and just worrying about let's just be in the water for 4 hours and 5 hours and 6 hours and swim clean
check out form.
Just doing that little mental checklist, and then getting into that swim. Every single one of those pieces came to play.
That's cool.
Every single bit of it, like having the gears that I needed to be where I wanted to be when I needed to be there, having the clean stroke, having the technique, having done the time in the water, being able to get up and run at the end, which is what I had to do in Tahiti every single day. All of those little T's crossed and I's dotted came together. So this was different than anything I had done before.
That's awesome. That's great. Okay, so getting into the race itself then. We know it was different from the New York race. Can you tell us a bit about the I guess Neil and Gracie both? Some of the logistics of the race, whether you guys had a boat, the kayak. I guess the race started in the dark. And then, get a bit in the logistics of it all.
It started around 5:30 in the morning. It's still pretty dark.
5:45.
And of course the kayak and the boats, everything needs to be out there. Now, picture 2,500 swimmers or 2,400 swimmers and their boats and their kayaks and support. It's a massive undertaking. And there's a lot of danger aspects associated with this as well.
Yeah, that many bodies.
Rules and lines of communication, like channels need to be open, don't put boats in reverse and run over swimmers. But the fun part is actually meeting up with your swimmer in the dark. Sure, your boat has some number on it, but the swimmers can barely see that.
How do you find Gracie and something? Like how do you
this is where it gets interesting. I know her stroke.
So you know exactly her stroke rate. How do you get to know her stroke?
I know her stroke rate. Per minute, I know how many strokes she takes. I know what her stroke looks like. I spend hours staring at her beautiful stroke. But with thousands of swimmers, strokes look similar.
Yeah.
They all wear the exact same color caps, so you have to really know what's going on.
And that's actually a funny story because on the beach in the week before, there's all sorts of discussion on how you're going to be seen by your kayaker.
Yeah,
so
I'd be
say,
like,
well, wear different colored zinc down your arm, paint something on your cap, wear balloons on your forehead, do this stuff. And the whole time I'm hearing all these suggestions and I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. You know what? I'm not even going to worry about it.
He does, man.
Because
we'll just do
that's I wouldn't have picked Neil. Neil's my husband and my biggest support, and he wouldn't be there with me if I didn't trust him to be able to find me. So I'm just going to trust him, and he's going to find me, and he did. So it was really good. And he was
awesome.
like, "Which side are you going to go on?" I said, "Well, maybe the south, but I don't know." And I ended up going straight down the middle, and he found me. So it was perfect.
Yeah. Cool. And then so once you find her, kind of. Like for a person like me who's completely foreign to this, how does it work? Like in terms of kind of walking me through like the basics of kind of nutrition, where she is, how you pick a line, how big is the width of how big is the width of like the area that you're swimming in?
Right.
So what are the boundaries?
I use a hobby kayak with pedals.
Okay.
And the luxury is I have my hands free.
Oh, cool.
So we pre-pack the boat with her nutrition for the whole swim. For 5 hours of swimming, she'll have all her CarboPro on the boat. Separate mesh bags for empty, so we don't mix full and empty
emergencies
bottles.
And
emergencies.
stuff,
I'll have 2 bottles always ready on tethered ropes.
Okay.
So in case the first one gets contaminated with salt water, I can throw the second one quickly.
So you've got like a really unique way of dealing with nutrition in this race. You were saying, how is it exactly that you go about keeping Gracie fueled during an event like this?
Right, so first of all, we start at night, we meet up with the swimmers, and then we pre-pack the hobby kayak with all the nutrition for about 6 hours, plus some spares just in case.
Okay.
And we have a whole system of mesh bags to keep it separate, so you can, feeds can get contaminated in bad water conditions and swell, and so you want to make sure she doesn't drink salt water. It's pretty important.
Okay.
And then we have tethering system where her feeds are tethered to myself, and when I throw it to her or hand it to her, depending on conditions, we can very easily just pull it back in the kayak after she just drinks, drops, and go. And we got that down to about a 6-second process.
Wow,
on average.
6 seconds. That's amazing.
During that 6 seconds, I typically try to relay information to her. So I almost sound like those guys at the races where they speak so fast.
So you've got 6 seconds in which to throw out
like
your nutrition,
fine print in a commercial.
tell her something.
Yeah.
And
so
then,
I'll give her stroke
so
rate sometimes. Sometimes I'll give her water temperature, where the next competitor is.
I'll give him a list of things that I want to know. And I'll say, this is the only thing I want to know from you.
This is what I want to hear.
This is it. I don't want to hear anything else.
That's it for communication.
Yeah, so then as soon as I'm drinking, he'll say, you're in 5th place, this is what's going on, your stroke rate is this, the water is this, come on, keep it up, we've gone this far. And
6 seconds up, gone.
Okay,
here we go again.
That's it.
And sometimes he'll be mid-sentence and I'll drop it.
And then that's it. Yeah, that's all you get.
But it gives her a lot of information to digest and think about.
Yeah.
So stroke rate for her, she'll know if she spins out in the beginning or if her stroke rate is too low.
Interesting.
I also make decisions on stroke rate if I see a drop really low, 10 strokes below normal. Then we start looking at hypothermia signs, and I can even see her lips or goosebumps on her arms or any kind of signs. And then eventually we'll work in.
How have you, and it's just through all these years of racing together and crewing for her.
And in different water bodies. Sometimes colder swims, warmer swims, you go by different things.
Well, I'm asking, so how have you picked up on those subtleties? Because it's quite amazing that you're able to notice.
Lots and lots of times.
So first of all, we have proximity. So I can be within an arm's length of her. Maybe 12 inches or so. But I don't have a kayak paddle in her face.
Okay.
Because
Right,
of the
right,
electric
right, because of the
pedals.
paddle, yep.
So we can see we have eye communication, and
Okay.
you know, when she takes a breath every now and then, one or two words will come out if she needs something. So
Okay.
we have very good communication.
Okay.
And over the years, we've learned body language as well.
Okay.
But my primary role is just basically line, and her primary role is to give the speed. I just
Interesting.
need to match
Okay.
her speed, and she matches the line of the hull of the kayak.
The whole
which gives
kayak,
her-
okay.
that's
And
basically
so
her
you're navigating basically in the kayak the entire time while she's
Yeah.
following the line of that. You're
Right.
yelling out, okay, stroke rate, okay, this.
Right.
And then, out of curiosity, like, so tell me a bit more then about the specifics of what you would do or what you were doing basically in a 5-hour race like that for nutrition. What were you taking and?
Hydro C5 the
Yeah.
whole time. I didn't.
Okay.
I've learned, time and tested. You know, this race was a little different because it was a warm water race.
Okay.
I actually didn't take as many carbs as I normally do, or as many calories as I normally do. So I cut down a little bit of the calories.
What's normal per hour?
Normally, I'll go around 350 calories
Okay, per hour.
per hour,
Okay.
and I won't take quite as many electrolytes, but because typically I'm in cooler water and cooler conditions,
Okay,
so
so
I
you're
need
burning
the
more
carb.
calories,
Right.
yep.
So this time, because the water is warmer, I went for more electrolytes. So
Okay.
kind of doubled the electrolytes and took 50 less calories. So I took
Okay.
right at 300 calories per hour.
Okay.
So I did 2 scoops of the Hydro C5 and 1 scoop of the regular CarboPro.
Like your CarboPro. You just
That
start
was
that
per
thing
hour.
going.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you
And-
alternate between the watermelon and the lemon lime flavors?
No,
or
no,
just-
I
okay.
love the watermelon.
Just watermelon all the way.
Look,
Okay.
I'm a one-man band. I stick
Okay.
with what's good. So
Interesting.
I mean, the lemon was really good, but
Yeah, yeah.
the watermelon tasted the best
Just
for me.
curious.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice. No, that's cool. So and that works solid throughout the plan.
Solid through and around
Every 30 minutes.
every 30 minutes I took the feed, and then
Okay.
at around 3 hours
So
I
you
took,
were what, like 100? I'm just curious.
I took
translating this
150,
to 150
every half hour.
Okay, cool.
Every half hour.
Nice.
I always pack a bottle of plain CarboPro that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have any C5 in it, that's flavorless in case I was to get sick or
Right.
from the salt water or anything, or if I
Okay.
want something just to wash my mouth down, or just a few extra calories. It's nice
Yeah.
to have something different, but no, pretty much
Well,
that bottle
this
stays
race-
full the rest of the time. I
This
never
race was
touch it.
pretty rough, and there was a lot of salt water she digested during this
Okay.
race
Yeah.
because of the bad conditions.
Okay. So yeah, let's talk about then. Talk about the conditions. What was the race? What was the water like? Were there any swells?
that
What was
was
the wind
crazy.
like? What were the currents
Very
like?
bumpy.
Yeah, so
Okay.
the day before, the morning before the swim, we went out to the same beach that's the start line, and it was glass. It was
Okay. You're just like,
beautiful
this is gonna
sun. Well,
Yeah.
no, I thought, well, if it's like this, it's probably not going to be like this tomorrow. And then sure enough, that night, the wind
cursed
started
it.
to blow. Well, I knew it. Like, it's sure enough, it's not going to be this good. It's
Yeah.
never this good. So the wind started to blow that night, and the wind was howling.
Man.
Howling over 30 miles an
20
hour.
miles.
And
Okay.
like, I was like, oh, this is going to be bad the next
the
day.
end.
And sure enough, being a paddler, I know when it blows that hard with wind, a lot of times you get leftover wind chop, which is the short period where
Mm-hmm.
waves pick up and it's just choppy. It's not going anywhere, but it's just rough to swim in.
Okay.
And sure enough, the next morning we get up and it's 5 a.m. and it's still blowing. And it's choppy. And I thought, well, you know, the greatest thing about it is it's a great equalizer. I
Yeah,
mean, everybody's in the exact same
Everybody's- yep.
thing. Nobody can
Yep.
complain that they got a better start than you did because
Yep.
we're all in the same thing.
Everybody
so,
had to go through it.
Yeah,
It was rough on everyone.
It was rough,
Kayakers were
yeah.
getting dumped left, right.
That's good. You get a person like Gracie though, who's like used to these like horrible long races. Like if she's,
Yeah.
I feel a lot of similarities when we've been talking, and
Yeah.
I do best in ultras where the conditions are the worst.
Yeah.
So
Yes. And
I
same
love
with,
it.
Same with the
Worst
current
conditions
as
for
well.
swims,
We
better
actually had
conditions for
kind of
racing.
slightly of a head current, but mostly from
from
south
the
to
cross,
north.
yeah.
okay.
And she really excels in swimming against the current.
Swimming
so-
against the current. Okay. And
Yeah.
that was something you described that you got a healthy dose of. It
Oh,
sounds
in
like when you were
Tahiti.
in Tahiti.
Yeah, in Tahiti, I had a great experience with that. So it was just great preparation for
Huh.
being thrown that. The race director there, Stefan Lamberty, says, you know, expect nothing, be prepared for anything.
Okay.
And that was totally, whenever I was in that swim, I
You're
thought,
just
oh,
like,
I'm prepared for anything.
I got
Here it
this.
comes.
I got this.
So it's
And
great.
so being prepared for anything, sharks. Apparently there was a sighting out there during the race.
Yeah,
They had
so,
helicopters actually looking for sharks. There.
Really?
so yeah, this
Okay.
beach, this area of Perth is evidently like a major red zone for sharks. So actually,
Okay.
the beach that we started from, somebody was killed on that beach not long before. I mean, like it's pretty dangerous.
fun.
And then at the 10K, I could hear Neil had his radio on his lapel of his vest, and I could hear him talking about the boat that sank and
Okay.
It
the
was
boat
pretty bad
sinking, and
conditions
then,
up.
Right.
then somebody's boat ran out of gas, and and by the way, there's a shark at the 10K, and I was like, well,
Oh man.
good thing I'm past the 10K.
And then there's then you have all the jellyfish and everything that are out
There
there.
was tons of jellyfish.
Okay.
Tons
And you got
of
stung
jellyfish.
yourself, you were saying?
All over, right across the face and the suit. Yeah.
Ugh, I cannot imagine. Like, okay, worst thing in ultras that we come across is like the fabled mountain lion that you never ever see. So, yeah, other than that, it's like your own weird demons that you create in your mind. That's insane.
We
you
did
guys
those
are-
too.
And that's why I'm not an ultra swimmer. Stick to the land. Okay, so we talked a bit about nutrition. We talked a bit about what the logistics of the race is like. I wanted to know, from an ultra standpoint, what was the most difficult part of this race? What was like the lowest low where you had to like dig the deepest to get yourself going again? When did that happen? And
I would
when-
say around 3.5 hours, I got really frustrated.
Okay.
And just because I'd been fighting bad conditions for hours at a time,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't really see anybody in the field.
Okay.
And
what position were you at that point?
I don't know, I think
3.5, probably about 9th.
ninth overall.
Ninth overall. Okay.
And but I couldn't see the other swimmers. I had no real idea how close or how far I was away from them, or if I was making ground on them, or what was going on. And so that was a super frustrating. There was about a half hour there where I was just really,
It's like, where am I?
yeah, just frustrated because I just didn't understand. Am I doing good? Am I doing bad? And I would ask him, I was like, am I okay? Am I
It's
doing good? And he's like, yeah, you're great.
You're
You're
doing
great. And I was like, well, what does that mean?
That was the right answer.
Yeah.
6 seconds. Get back down there.
Yeah, pretty much. That was his answer. Just go. And I was like, well,
Yeah.
no, you didn't answer my question. So that was a really tough piece. But the rest of it was, it was another day in the life. It was good.
Okay. So then, probably one of the most exciting parts, definitely hands down the most exciting part of this is that you actually made it a real race. So for spectators, can you from both ends kind of describe to us the last 2 kilometers of this race, what position you were in, what it was like, how close you were, and just kind of walk us through the exciting part that was the end of this race.
At 18 kilometers, it's about 2 kilometers before the end.
Okay.
We, our boat captain says he suspects he recognized one of the kayakers in front of us.
Okay.
So about 400 yards to our left, definitely about a quarter mile or so ahead of us, maybe even more than that. He recognized this kayaker as potentially being the fastest Australian lady swimmer's husband. And obviously he's kayaking just for her, right?
Right.
So about a kilometer later we were able to confirm that, but
Okay.
bad news is Gracie was not in first place anymore.
Oh man. Did
so-
she think prior to that she wasn't first?
Well, I've been telling her the whole time she
you
was in
did,
first
okay.
place.
But I knew I wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah, she somehow knew that Jamie
You
was
get
ahead of her.
you get that feeling. Yeah.
But we honestly thought she was picking up the guys because we couldn't see at the dark in the start
Okay.
if it was really a girl being in front of her.
Okay. It's
Obviously, 400 yards out, you can't see who the swimmer is. But bottom line is, we realized there's a race and it's on. And so we started communicating with Gracie, giving her signals approximately of her proximity to other swimmers, and trying to navigate and also with the current coming, it was very strategic really, because they took a very far outline trying to ride the 1 mile per hour current at the end.
Okay.
And we were hedging the whole time with a tighter line.
Okay.
So navigation became key.
So you guys were aiming more for a tighter line where she
Yeah.
was swinging the outside on a gamble that the
Right.
current would bring
And
her
it's
through
our
fast.
backyard, so we knew they knew what they were
Right.
doing. But long story short, we started communicating with Gracie. Told her there's work to do. You got to catch up. Like 5 yards every 100
And
or
what was your initial what was your initial reaction when he told you like, hey, she's up there, like
I knew it. I felt
Okay. You felt
confirmed.
it?
Finally, well,
Okay.
because I had been feeling it at that dark moment that I told you around 3.5
Okay.
hours. I knew when I was asking, where am I? What's going on? I knew that because they kept saying, oh, you're in the lead, you're in the lead. And I'm thinking, but I'm not. I know that I'm not. I know
someone
that
up
at
there.
this pace, there's no way that I'm in the lead.
Huh.
I'm sure I'm in the race, but I want to know where I am. And so I kept asking, where am I? Who's out there? Go find out. And they were like, well, they were frustrated because they couldn't see. And then I knew after I had asked again, find out where she is.
Yeah.
The boat captain went zooming around and left Neil and I, and he was on the radio with him, and the whole time Neil had been smiling, and he would give me these reassuring looks in my eyes, and that's what I look for. And then all of a sudden I went to look at him again, and he had this like super worried look on his face, like.
Well, I was just doing that the whole time.
Like,
I'm thinking 2 kilometers. How are we gonna get 400 yards out of 2 kilometers? This is almost impossible.
Yeah. So he was, but I knew right then. He goes, and then I screamed at him, "What's wrong?" And then he said, "You're in second." And I was, and I think he thought that I was really going to be upset by that.
Yeah.
But I wasn't upset
like, no,
because I was like,
this.
that's what I wanted to know.
It's killing me.
I just wanted to know exactly where I am, and I knew that but that was confirmation of that point. But I knew by his body language and by the look in his face that he was super concerned and super worried. And then I yelled at him again, "Come on,
Let's do this.
Let's get over it." And then it was game on. Then it was just every look after that, and every speech after that was like, now we're on a mission. Because what had happened was I took a straight line and they took the south current. So all of a sudden we're converging on this one, the distance, this little space where we have to converge into is not 25 meters across. So we took these huge lines down to this one little space. So all of a sudden, everybody who may have been this huge distance is now all together. So now it's real. You know,
we get to this point where our captain and his boat needed to split off at about 800 yards left, and she had about 75 yards to still catch up. And at the 400 meter mark, I have to split off as well. So only swimmers are allowed in that final shoot. And at that point, she had about 25 yards to still catch up. And we use signals, and we have a lot of things we developed over the years of how we communicate, because in the water they can barely hear anything. So I gave her the signal, and I pointed to where Jamie was, and when she lifted up her arm and tried to sight, and she saw her, she knew, okay, game on, man. You're in my sights now. I'm gonna run you down. And so sure, right at that point I could see her just get this burst of energy, and she was just in 400 yards, probably less, maybe in 200 yards, she made up the 25. Passed her and even gained another 15-20 seconds on her after that. So it was amazing to see that kind of sprint energy at the end of 5 hours of swimming. It was amazing power that I've never seen before, and just that raw emotional feeling of coming from behind and not really knowing if you had enough time to make up all that distance. It was so emotional.
Yeah, it was good. I knew by after he originally said, "Oh, well, you're in second," I could see he was disappointed and not sure what to do, and he started egging me on, and I said, "Fine, okay, let's go," and then we got our head down. You could see he started to get more into it, and then he could see that I was getting more into it, and I could see every time I would breathe and I would make a little ground on her, he would get more excited and get more excited, and I could see his face start to change.
At 400 yards left, I had no voice left anymore.
But that really helped. Just, you know, I did at that point. I think he was yelling at me exactly how far I was away at that point. But it didn't matter because I was just I could see by his whole demeanor that I was making ground. And then whenever he gave me the point to look, and I finally lifted my head up because he had to break away, I saw her and I was like, I know I can do this.
That's awesome.
And I think I was telling you earlier, there's no better feeling like as an athlete when everything comes together. When you know that you've done all this training and you've worked so hard and you've done all these various types of training, you've pushed yourself in so many different ways so that you know you have this depth inside you, but you just hope that when you ask for it, that you can reach for it and that tank is never empty. Like that is the perfect, most beautiful feeling as an athlete. And I think all of us who've ever been there only ever get that a few times in your life. But when you've had it once, you know that it's possible and you would give anything to get it again. And it was one of those moments where I as soon as I saw her, I knew I had it and I reached a little bit and found some, and then I realized I could go a little deeper and a little deeper, a little deeper. And then I found that tank was overflowing and I could go as far as fast as I wanted. And then it was great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it felt really good.
And so you make the pass and you're gaining yards and yards on her as you come in, and then what's it like? Walk us through what was that finish like?
Well, I took a couple. I took a couple look backs because she's an amazing athlete. I mean, that girl didn't get where she is, you know, easily. So I knew if she really wanted to make a fight on me, that it was going to be game on.
You
So
make
a couple looks back, and I saw, okay, I think I've got a little bit more in the tank than she has, so it's fine. So I just pushed for the finish. And I didn't want to stop. I was so afraid of getting beaten on the run up the ramp because I'm a swimmer, not a runner. And I was afraid maybe she was a better runner. So I just went bolting up the ramp, and then it was so surreal. Like getting the opportunity to race with the deepest, most amazing swim community in the world, and the biggest race in the Southern Hemisphere, and to run up that ramp and realize that everything came together. It was that perfect moment where all that hard work, all that time, it had all come together to this really moment. It was just totally surreal. And then it dawned on me that now I'm standing up and I'm no longer swimming. And then I got a little dizzy, but no, it was good. It was euphoric. It was just surreal. Yeah. It was the first time, I mean, Neil and I've ever cried over a race together. He and my boat captain came running across the thing and then burst through the medical tent, and we just all just started having tears. It was great.
That's phenomenal. Man. Well, congratulations. Queen of the Northern Hemisphere with the Manhattan Island Marathon Swim, and now Queen of the Southern Hemisphere with the Rottnest Channel Swim, the 25th annual. Huge congratulations to you for first place at both of these events. I'm sure a question for me and all our viewers here, what's next?
I really don't know. I'm just the type of swimmer that only wants to do stuff that inspires me. I'm not really caught up in any major, where I'm clicking off these things on a list. So I'm always just looking for the next thing that just really speaks to my heart and speaks to my head, and then that's the one that I'll do.
Awesome. Sounds great. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.